In the name of God, most gracious, most merciful, there are no English words to convey Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim. But as you walk with God, these words explode into zillions of worlds of meaning. We have been discussing in the last two videos, and the last one, I believe, was attacked by Satan. So we'll see if God will re-inspire us today with conversation from on high. For I bring no prefabricated notes or manuscripts with me, as I bring no garbage or baggage with me in my life, period, anymore. The living God is my sole provider, my sustainer, and my teacher. And what he teaches and gives me directly, not from Harvard to Yale, Princeton, Howard, Saudi Arabia, or any of the places that people run to thinking that it will make them wise. And many or most emerge from these institutions total idiots with great information, but no state of sanctification, no illumination, and dead hearts communicating messages that do nothing but manipulate the mind, masturbate the mind, and leave you informed, but not transformed. I am about transformation. 1,000 years ago, it should have took place on this planet. For as I stated on the first video, we should be way, way beyond where we are as a human species. And unless this planetary spear is raised in consciousness immediately, if not sooner, this entire human race is on the demise in its estrangement from its primordial origin, or the original face we had, our Din al-Fitra, our divine design, our internal cosmic core blueprint that is stamped indelibly on the souls and hearts of every man born into the world. And even in John's gospel, we have a hint of this gnosis, when the writer says that he was the true light that lighteth every man that cometh into the world. So you don't go to the church or the mosque to find that. You take that with you when you get there. And if you didn't bring it, you won't leave with it. So we were discussing the profundity of this man's thinking. For until we understand the thinking of an individual, there is no way we can enter into a relationship of intimacy with that individual. So unless we understand what's happening with Father Abraham in this passage of the 6th surah, something profound and majestic is happening to his thinking. For he is reflecting out of contemplation all around him for his purpose and meaning of existential living existence. Why was I born? Why am I here? What and who is my creator? But Ibrahim has something that only a few men and women possess in this world when they are born. He has a hunger for the truth. The truth. And the truth never comes to make us comfortable. It doesn't come to pacify us or stroke us or leave us where we have been. The truth sets us free because it knocks out the boundaries that have kept us bound. So this passage in the ancient Arabic text reads as this, verse 74. وَإِذْ قَالَ إِبْرَاهِيمُ لِأَبِيهِ أَزَرَ أَتَعْتَقِدُوا أَصْنَامًا آلِهَةً إِنِّي رَبَّكَ وَقَوْمَكَ فِي ضَلَالٍ مُبِينٍ. And as I stated before the video was cut off, I think, the last video, I stated that there is no adequate translation of these words, not from the ancient Arabic words. We can only hint at the interpretation of these words. And what we have in this particular translation or interpretation are these words by A. Yusuf Ali. It said, Lo, Abraham said to his father Azar, takest thou idols for gods, for I see thee and thy people in manifest error. So here Ibrahim has put himself in a place where God has to do something for him. And whenever we step out on that which we know is right, and we are convicted in mind, body, and soul against that which is wrong, if we have integrity with our Creator and with ourselves, we must cry out against that wrong in that society, in that family, in that community, in that society, in that nation, and in the omniverse itself, because our thoughts affect the process of entire creation. Our thoughts have power. And as quantum physics has proven lately, that our thoughts are things. And what we think and what we speak with conviction moves atomic matter. It moves it. It causes it to be manipulated by vibration of thought that is so powerful that it moves the very solidity that we think is solidity around us and changes things. And this is where we get the old saying that the old folks used to say, that prayer changes things. Our thought changes things. But what is his thinking? What is his thinking? His thinking is not born off the top of the head. His thinking is born out of an encounter that he has here. He has an encounter. And God is not our cosmic bellboy. We are his. He is the one who rings the bell. God is not cosmic bellboy. God is creative encounter. And our father Abraham alayhi salam is having an encounter. An encounter that we all can have if we have his heart or his kind of integrity and his passion for gnosis and for knowledge and for truth and for righteousness. And this is what we remember him by. We remember him for his righteousness, for his decisions to walk the right way and not the wrong way. And those of us who know the Bible know that Abraham did not start out as Abraham. He started out with a different name. And names are sacred and essential. The ancient people didn't just stick names on their children like we do today. We just name them anything. Anything that comes to us. Lakeisha, Loquisha, or Dominica. But we don't know what the name means because we didn't seek God's guidance before we put that vibration on our children. But the ancients fasted and prayed and sought God for a name because they realized that the child's destiny or the soul had a destiny that was reflected in the name that it had. So Ibrahim's name started out as Abram or Ibram. And what does that mean? It means high father. But as he walked with God and as he passed his test and confronted the unseen, not the seen, but confronted what he could not see and accepted the unseen. For unless you accept the unseen, you can't even begin to accept God because God is unseen. He's so much seen that he's unseen. He's so much seen that he's unseen. And often you hear people say that God is everywhere. He's omnipresent. He's everywhere. Well, Sheikh Abdul Jilani brings out the fact that is really rude, and I'm going to tell you why. Though God is everywhere and everywhere present, you wouldn't want to say it like that because if you walked past the bull and he left a big lop of, there in the middle of the street, would you say that God was in that dung? That is beneath his dignity to even consider identifying his presence with something that is foul. So Sheikh Abdul Qadir Jilani, the Sultan of the Saints, teaches us that it is more appropriate to say that God's knowledge is present with all things. His knowledge of all things is present with him in his eternal mind. His knowledge of all things. He is present with all things in his knowledge of all things. But something happens in the 75th verse, and it reads like this in the Arabic, A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. I seek refuge in Allah from the accursed shaitan. It says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, wa kadhalika nuri Ibrahima malakuta samawati wal ardi wal yakuna min al mukinin. So also did we show Abraham the power and the laws of the heavens and the earth, that he might with understanding, not ignorance, but with gnosis or knowledge, not superficial knowledge, but certainty that he might have certitude. And this is what I mean by there not being a real interpretation of these words. For the word here is mukinin. But when you get to the root, it centers around three particular words pertaining to knowledge or gnosis, as it is learned directly from God. And the first gnosis that we come to with this word mukinin is called elmu yakin. Yakin, certainty. Elmu yakin. And that's more like somebody saying to you one day, a teacher maybe, I like to tell you that there's an ocean that exists in California, on the coast of California. It's beautiful to swim in, especially, during the summer months. And you can really do a lot of diving there and fishing and whatever that thing is they get on, and they ride the waves until one knocks their brains out and they find themselves hit in the head by a stone at the bottom where they end up going. They love doing that, and especially it seems like Caucasians love playing with death in any kind of way they can. And water is really nothing to play with. It's a very dangerous force if it's not approached with respect. But surfboarding is what it's called. We're not here to talk about surfboarding, but we're here to talk about knowledge and ignorance and the comparison of the two. So someone comes to you and says that, there is such a thing called the Pacific Ocean, and they describe it to you intellectually. And you say, oh, now I know what the Pacific Ocean is. but you don't know what it is. You don't have certitude. You have a gnosis. You have Elmu Yakin. You have a knowledge of this. But then the teacher says, or information concerning this, intellectual understanding. You have intellectual certitude at this point. But that's going to be increased, because the teacher then says we're going to have a session where we're going to video and show video of the Pacific Ocean. And you sit there and you watch the video and you see it on the video. And you say, now I really know what this is. And yes, you do, from another level of intellectual understanding. That's still a kind of Elmu Yakin that is now moving into what is called Ainu Yakin. Ainu Yakin. So we have Elmu Yakin, which is the basic intellectual comprehension of a thing and the knowledge that we have on that level. But then we move further into what is called Ainu Yakin. Now you are visualizing it. You are seeing it. You are hearing it. If there's sound and audio, you are picking it up in terms of the mind, and now you're beginning to pick it up in terms of the body. But that's still not the ultimate knowledge that is talked about in this passage that is given to our father Abraham. So then the teacher comes back and says, we're going to take a field trip to the Pacific Ocean. And we're going to catch a plane, and all fares are paid by the school. So you're gung-ho about that. You get on the plane. He says, and when we get off the plane, we're going to catch a cab and go directly to the Pacific Ocean, and we will see it. And that's exactly what we do. So now you're there on the beach. You're looking at the Pacific Ocean, and you say, yeah, I really know what the Pacific Ocean is now. I have absolute certitude. And the teacher says, no, not quite yet. So he says, bring us a boatman. And he brings a boat. And he puts you in it with about 8 other students. And now you end up in the middle of the Pacific Ocean in the boat. And the water's all around you. And you're there, not on the shore now, but in the middle of the ocean. And you stand up and say, now I really know what the Pacific Ocean is. I have absolute certitude. I have mukinin. I've reached this state that Ibrahim has reached in terms of the gnosis that God is giving him concerning the omniverse, which he is a part of and which surrounds him. So the teacher says, no, you still don't know for certain yet what it is. And you say, well, yes, I do. I'm standing in the boat and I'm in the middle of it. He says, not quite yet. He said, what we're going to do now, we're going to test everybody, and we're going to put blindfolds on all 8 of you. And so everybody puts on a blindfold, but he's got you in mind because you've been popping off since the beginning in terms of what you know. And the teacher is determined to show you you know nothing. That's why you need a teacher. If you knew, you wouldn't come to the teacher. Otherwise, you need to stay where you are. But the teacher says, okay, now we blindfolded, and he snatches your behind up and throws you dead into the water. But you can't swim. That's not so good. Now you're drowning. And the water is now going in your mouth and it's going in your nose. You can't breathe. You can't swim. You're about to die. And you're in the middle of the ocean called the Pacific Ocean. So now you have something you did not have before. Before you had a hearing of it, and that was Elmu Yakin. You had a hearing of it intellectually. Then you saw it visually on a video. That was Ainu Yakin. But now you are drowning in the Pacific Ocean. And in this drowning, you will either come to grips with the totality of what the Pacific Ocean is, or the Pacific Ocean will destroy you. And now the teacher reaches down almost at your last breath, and he snatches you out the water back onto the boat. All the students are looking at you. Everybody's humbled, and you are definitely humbled at this point. And now you say, I think I know with certitude what the Pacific Ocean is. And the teacher responds, yes, as a result of much pain and ignorance that you had to fight through in order to get to this kind of gnosis. In order to get to this kind of gnosis. that he might with understanding, not just with information, but with wisdom that goes along with the knowledge. And that in the Arabic language is called hikmah. Hikmah. Many have much information. Oh, they're encyclopedic in terms of the books they have read and the schools they have attended and the degrees that they possess. But they don't have it. They don't have this intimacy with wisdom, which is a product of much pain and assessment and reflection, which is called muraqabah, of examining everything about yourself and all the things that you do, what you're thinking, what is your thinking, what you're thinking, what you're speaking, the effect of that thought and that speech upon the creation around you. You know, what does all of that mean? What does all of that mean? What does all of that mean? But God does not want his anointed to be an ignorant man. And if you belong to God at all, he will teach you and he will send lights into your life that will enlighten you and unlock the secret chambers of your collective unconscious mind and release the symbols and the books that are there and give you the ability through an opening that does not come from man, but comes directly from God, so that the same thing may happen to you that happened to Father Abraham, that we might show Abraham, alayhi salam, or Ibrahim, the power and the laws of the heaven and the earth, that he might with understanding have absolute gnosis, or have absolute knowledge of what's called haku yakin. So in this session, we have discussed 3 types of knowledge. And my sincere students, I want you to remember these terms that I give you, not from manuscript, but from spontaneous combustion of the inspiration of Almighty God's ruah, or his spirit moving upon my heart and my soul in these moments where I try to transmit what I'm being shown and how to communicate it to you in a way that is not above your heads, but that you can understand, you know. Because what's about to happen to Ibrahim now is a disclosure, a giving of grace to him that enlightens him, and lights him up, and actually changes his name from High Father to the meaning of Ibrahim, which is Father of multitudes, Father of multitudes. And often when people come to a master or to a teacher, and he's able to look at your vibratory rate and see your luminous egg and see the condition of your spirit and look into the depths of your atomic core, because God has graced the Shaikh with this kind of insight. And someone asked me the other day, what is a Shaikh? Well, I don't know what the other ones are. I wasn't seeking to be one, period. But this one is not one with the long beard hanging down on the ground, knocking people in the head with hadith that they don't understand themselves and quoting scriptures that they have no gnosis concerning. They only have outer understanding. They have sharia. They have the outer shell, but they don't have the inner core. They don't have the kernel, and they don't have the oil that exists in the kernel. And most of them don't want it. No, they want religion, but they don't want the rejoining that the religion should bring them to. They don't want the transformation. They don't want the direct encounter with God. They love to talk about God. They love to believe in God. But no, it is a price to pay to know God. And the price is yourself. It is your total being. It is your total being. So Christians don't say, well, he's talking from Islam. No. I'm talking from the universal truth, because even your book tells you the same thing. When the Apostle Paul says in Romans these words, for the invisible things of him from the creation of the world are clearly seen, being understood by the things that are made, even his eternal power and Godhead, so that they are without excuse. For when they knew God, they glorified him not as God, but became vain in their imaginations. Professing themselves to be wise, they became fools, and transformed the creation unto images of four-footed beasts and creeping things, and made God like unto them, as though they created God. And you did not create God. God created you. And there is a responsibility that you have as a result of that understanding. In terms of what your life is all about. And you won't know what that life is all about until you come to this understanding that Father Abraham also came to. And we don't want our video to be too long today because it may not play right. And if I lose this, I can't go back and get it for you. Because I didn't write it. The Lord has given it. From him to me, to you. And we will continue our discussion on Abraham and the meaning of Hanifan. The next time we video. For my children, I pray this prayer, which is the opening surah of Al-Fatiha, or the Holy Quran called Al-Fatiha, which means the opening. And we could spend years in these 7 or 8 verses or ayats, just teaching on the Al-Fatiha. And I will do it in the Arabic, and I ask that you receive it without necessarily understanding the words in the English at this time. A little upon a little, light upon light, Allah is veiled by 70,000 veils of light. The Quran says, any one veil could blind us indefinitely. Certainly if we do not approach it in a proper manner. So I end this session with these words. Bismillah, Ar-Rahman Ar-Rahim, Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim ghayril mahdhubi alayhim waladdallin. Ameen. Now I'm going to blow this prayer upon you. And distance, space, none of that can hinder my prayer reaching you. If you have but an atom of Iman, I ask that you take this blowing of my prayer upon you as Shaykh and wipe it over your body, beginning with your face. I'm going to blow it over you now. Wadami Rankula, Hadain to the Rubana. Hablel was Sulilina. Ya Allah, Ya Allah. This is the 21st day of Ramadan, in which people who have entered the fast are fasting from sunup to sundown. Hopefully they're not just going without food, for we have crossed the halfway point of the fast, and the doors of Allah's mercy all around the world right now are wide open for angels to descend and ascend. And those who have gnosis seek for this one night during this month called the night of power. I experienced it once, unknowingly, when I had just really embraced Islam and did not understand what I was experiencing that night. And I won't teach on that right now, because another state is now coming upon me, and it's not time. I've never done videos live like this before, so this is all new to me. But it's all exciting at the same time, because you are my joy. And the only reason why I yet remain on this plane, because I really want to go home. I am really sick and tired of the willful ignorance that I see possessing this present humanity, and the evil things we do to one another in the name of money and power and materialism and our so-called importance. The only important thing is your Lord. And until we come to this, as our father Abraham or Abram came to, when God changed his name to Abraham or Ibrahim and blessed him for putting him first in front of all other things as the sole priority, not just one of the many, but the sole and only priority is to know him or that which created you. And until you hunger for that and long for that, as a thirsty man who's dying of thirst in the desert needs water, or a man or woman who's drowning in water needs air, until you come to this kind of place in your life, nothing really changes, but remains the same. I hope that I have said something this morning, this day, that you can take with you to the bank and cash it in later as real dividend for your existence and your life on this planet. Assalamu alaikum. No interpretation for these words. Assalam alaik. Nunga def. Yapa yagan. Ashanti. Habarigani. Hotep. Let us praise the living God who has awakened us this day, who has clothed us and kept us, as the old folks say, in our right minds, who has blessed us in a zillion ways. May God open our eyes and our ears and give us speech that is in harmony with his vibratory rate. And may we get so much of this until we become his vibratory rate. And then people may be walking around thinking you are God. And then maybe, just maybe, our very shadows falling on someone can heal them and change their entire lives.